Hello family, Mukhaisi Dumela. Welcome to The Voice with me, Palisa. Remember, this is a show for you, by you, with you, giving you a chance to tell your story. And today, Pagati, inside on The Voice, I have a woman in studio. You know, I call her strength personified. A voice for the voiceless. You know, this woman liberated a lot of women. And of course, she is an actress. She acted on SABC1 Soapy Skim Sam as Mukhadi. Yes, she's here. And she's also a radio personality. And of course, she's not only a businesswoman, but she's also an author. An author of the book, A Decade in My Life. Mukhaitsu, ladies and gentlemen, help me welcome my queen, Nolo Matlaila. That's how we do it.
Oh my word, thank you so much. You just made me feel like a queen. Thank you so much.
A queen.
Thank you.
How are you?
I'm great. I was feeling a little bit nervous, but you know, when a person introduces you, they remind you who you are. Sometimes we forget who we are, so it reminded me of who I am, and I thought, yeah, okay, that's empowering. That's empowering. So thank you. I'm happy to be here.
Look at you. You know, you even look more beautiful in person. Because I only saw you, you know, go Skim Sam. I saw you on TV. And of course, I saw you on YouTube lately.
Yes.
But I'm like when you came in, I'm like, this woman is beautiful.
Thank you.
Like, you look more beautiful in person.
But you know, that is such a blessing because hey, the last thing you want to hear is, Kantunje, you know.
But
so yeah,
I'm happy to have you here.
Thank you.
So before we go, you know, to talk about your book and your business, you know what you do, I'd like to get to know more about you.
Yeah.
Where you're from, your background,
okay,
and where you grew up. Who basically is Nolo, you know, as a baby.
Okay. So full name's Ki Pebetsi Letlhogo Nolo.
Oh,
Matlaila. Yes.
Nolo.
People think Nolo is from Bonolo. But Letlhogo Nolo is from Letlhogo Nolo, my second name. Born, bred and battered from Limpopo province. And I was born in a place called Zibidiela, known for oranges. So a huge orange farm is found there. It supplies oranges all over the country. So, you know, it's well known for that. And then most of my childhood was spent within Limpopo, raised by both parents. I'm the firstborn to two younger boys. Yeah, and you know, I've just been one that grew up in an environment where it was just at the tail end of apartheid. So I was raised in an era of endless possibilities, you know. And I think also I learned quite a lot into what freedom actually means, what democracy should look like. So I would like to consider myself lucky in terms of growing up in that era, you know. And today I am a mother to two lovely girls, beautiful souls, great characteristics. So my firstborn is Warabile, my secondborn is Kawekazi, 12 and 4 respectively. And I'm a psychology graduate.
Oh, wow.
And a diploma.
You better recognize, ne? Graduate. Psychology graduate.
Yes. And I also have a diploma in teaching. And I'm still completing it though, so I'm still busy with the practicals. And yeah, some people know me as an actress, right? I guess that's where the world started knowing me. However, before acting, I was also just doing radio presenting. Yeah, so I think that's how I would like to clear. But those are just the outside characteristics. But when we look at the core of who I am God's child. I am chosen, I'm anointed, I'm justified, and I am his masterpiece.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
You are honestly a masterpiece, you know, especially with everything else. I think, you know, when we look at, you know, your accolades and everything that you've that you've achieved, I can honestly see God, you know, in you, you know. Like, I think you're such an overcomer. You are brave. You are one brave woman that I've met. I mean, when I realized, especially when I got to know more about you, was when you started, you know, going on YouTube and posting your own story and taking power in your own voice. And I was honestly inspired. She say, "Hi, man. What's my girl? Look at the same WhatsApp."
And I learned from you. I learned from you. I'm like, you see, these are the kind of women that inspire me, you know. Yes, so I'm just glad that your story can shine a light into mine. My story can shine a light into somebody's. And if there's one thing I love, is that at the end of the day, you gain self-awareness, you gain, your faith is revived in case you lost it, your hope is instilled in case you were hopeless, you know. And that's why I say, if this is a tool to remind people not to give up, if my story, my testimony is going to be a tool for somebody, like your story was a tool for me, and say, but Palesa is still standing and she still looks gorgeous, you know, despite the challenges we face, particularly as women, you don't have to look like your problems, and you don't have to cave under the pressure. And Rebonaka women like you, and I think that's where my resistance comes from.
Thank you.
Resilience, yeah. Yes, I mean, I like that, because little beauty, the way you still carry yourself. As much as you look about what you've been through, but you look at her, you're like, how is she still looking like that? You know. And I think
it is God, sis, you know, it can only be the glory of God. How you know, those that are chosen, you know, those that are separated, those that are sanctified, you know, God just lifts you up and you glow.
You glow with a different glow,
If there's one thing that they cannot take away from you, is the grace of God upon your life.
Amen.
Amen.
Yeah.
So, sis, you've got a lot to tell, like you've got a story to tell.
Which one do you want to hear? Because there's different compartments.
Let's start with, you were married?
I was married briefly for like 9 months.
9 months?
Yes.
Okay, maybe before you start, you know, telling us about your marriage, how did you meet your husband or your ex-husband, and how did he propose, and, you know, tell us all the beauty, and, you know, because I'm sure at that time, you know, I mean, everyone, you know, that meets the husband, hey, will you marry me? There's still that excitement, you know. I'm choosing to find the beauty out of it.
I wish I had a beautiful story for you, because you're such a romantic, Palesa, but in my case, that's not what happened. No. I mean, I can't worry. How did he propose? There is no such thing. Nothing of that. No.
Roses are red, violets are blue.
None.
Sugar is sweet, but not as sweet as
No, I never went through that. I don't even know what that looks like.
Tell me about it. How were you married if you didn't like go through the roses are red, violets are blue?
Yeah. No, thank you for asking that, because I think once and for all, people will get it. And if they don't get it on this podcast, I don't know where else. If you don't get it on The Voice with Palesa, you're never going to get it. So listen up. I'm going to clarify everything, because I've just hinted here and there. I've never really clarified. So I was a victim of COVID. What I mean by that is COVID, it's either you lost your job, you fell pregnant, you got divorced, or you lost somebody in the family due to COVID. One of those things probably happened to you. And I was a victim of COVID in the sense that my long-standing partner of 4 years, who I thought I was going to marry, dropped me and disappeared. In today's language, we call it ghosting. He ghosted me yet again. I don't know why I was not immune to it by now, because he kept on doing it, but he'd always come back when life was hard, and then I'll take him back in, hoping to build a future. You must remember, this is the man I prayed about. This is the man I want to marry, you know? And when he broke me for the last time, he really shattered, took my heart and grated it, you know? Misery loves company. What did I end up doing? I fell into the arms of another man. When I fell into the arms of another man, he has been chasing me for some time. I'll give him that. He has been after me for a good 4 years, but I was with somebody else. So when that somebody else ended things with me, or rather disappeared, I fell into the arms of this man. This man and I were together for a brief period, literally, I'm sure 3 months. We're still within COVID. It's 2020, so we are still within COVID. There's lockdowns, so you spend a lot of time with an individual. You're always together. It was that time when there were curfews and so on and so forth. And being in his arms and being comforted by him, as he would call it, I'm healing you, I fell pregnant. When I fell pregnant,
first baby?
Second
baby.
Yeah, I fell pregnant, and when I fell pregnant, he immediately said, I'm gonna marry you. I'm like,
Okay, so the first man that created you, he's the father of your first baby?
no. The father of my first baby, I already knew from word go that we were not going to get married. As a matter of fact, he wanted to get married, but when they brought the letter, I ran to Joburg.
The runaway bride?
Yes.
Okay.
So I ran and I came to Joburg, started life afresh here in Joburg. I was young, in my 20s. That's with my firstborn. Obviously now I fall pregnant. My oldest one is 8 years. I'm falling pregnant. And this gentleman who has been chasing me for a good 4 years says, you know what, I've been looking for you for 4 years. I want you to be my wife. I'm marrying you. And I thought to myself, but do I really want to marry this person? Why? The reason I was doubtful, Palisa, is because I could already see the red flags during our time together. But remember, I was broken. And if you don't heal a wound and you go and date somebody else with an open wound, you bleed on that person. He wasn't strong enough to be able to heal my wound. He didn't know how deep it was. He didn't even know how it shattered me inside. But misery loves company, and I was broken. So I went and I found refuge in him. I found comfort. I found peace. Most importantly, I found validation. Or I'm worthy of love, because somebody left me without an explanation. I felt like I'm not worthy of love. Here's this man who wants to offer me love. And when I spoke to my parents, my mother is a very religious person. Her words were, so you're going to have a second child out of wedlock. This is what you want for your life. And a man wants to marry you. God loves marriage. Just get married. And I got married in the hope that he will change. Got married in the hope that he will be a different person. And he did want to be a different person. The problem is he struggled with addiction. And whenever he would get intoxicated, weekend after weekend, I would be abused.
Alcohol?
Alcohol and other substances that I just don't want to mention because it's not set in stone, it's not confirmed. So I don't want to just send out allegations, but it was not just alcohol. So literally every weekend, I remember I was pregnant and I would find myself running. Busi who got lockdown so begging for an Uber to come at that time to go take us to my brother's place in Midrand because we couldn't sleep in the same house where he is. He snaps into a different personality when he's drunk and he threatens to kill us. He's sharpened knives in front of us. He's dropped glasses in front of us and wants to use that sharp side of the glass or the bottle that he's holding. We would lock ourselves in the bedroom.
You and the two kids now?
I was still pregnant.
Oh, you were still
heavily
pregnant?
That time, yeah.
And where were you? Where was your other baby?
Living with us. Living with us. And I could see that, you know, this is damaging her, but most importantly, 8 years. I could see that it's damaging her, but most importantly, I might not even make it. I might not even end up giving birth to this child. We might just die together. You know, because it was extreme. The abuse was to the point where I'm pregnant, but he will throw me down the stairs. And tomorrow when I tell him what he did, he's crying and apologizing profusely. Hey, I'll go to speak to the pastor so he can pray for me. We'll get him a therapist, a counselor, to speak to him about his challenges. Why does he snap into this person and he doesn't remember the next day what he did? Whenever I tried to say, you know what, let's separate, go sort yourself out, fix yourself, because not only am I living in fear, but you're also damaging my oldest daughter. And the last straw on a camel's back for me was the day we were locked in the bedroom. The baby was born now, right? My baby was born. And we locked ourselves in the bedroom because every time we'd hear him come home with the car loud, we know he was drunk. And immediately as we heard him park, we would run upstairs, lock ourselves in the main bedroom because we know anything might happen, you know. Police used to be at our apartment literally every weekend. Every weekend. So the day he punched a hole through the door with his bare fist, that day I thought I was dying. I thought I was dying and I was recording it. So that if I die, the world must know how I died and who killed me. That recording was my saving grace. Because I used that recording to get a protection order against them. I used that recording to speak to the elders at home. I know this is an embarrassment. I know I just got married 9 months ago, but look at how my life is. Is this how you want me to live? I cannot be with this man. And he's busy destroying my oldest child psychologically. Before I know it, the oldest child's father is going to come and get her because I'm putting her in this kind of an environment. She's growing up in this kind of an environment. And that actually kind of let the guard down, where they say, okay, maybe separate. You know how elders are like, separate, you'll get back together when you're okay. But truth is, I grew up watching my father abuse my mother. And that has dented my relationship with men. That has caused childhood trauma that I'm only healing from it now in my 30s. And so I once looked at that child of mine at the age of 8 and I thought, if it's only taking me until 30 to start working on my childhood traumas, what is it doing to, how is she gonna live? I grew up this way. This was a norm in my household, but it damaged me psychologically and emotionally. I've got scars I've never worked through. So what am I doing to this one? So I quickly learned that the vicious cycle has to stop with me. It has to stop with me. It cannot be a norm in each and every single generation. Yes, I married a man that is just like my father, who's abusive just like my father. And for me, it could have been a norm because that's how I grew up. But I don't want it to be a norm in my daughter's life. I don't want that. And if it means I have to end this marriage, I'm going to end it. And for me, that was the last straw, because I looked at her and I thought, I cannot continue damaging her this way. And I thought of her future. I don't want her to end up with a man like that. I don't want her to think, men are all dogs and they will treat you bad. I had to change the norm. I had to change this generational pattern, and it had to stop with me. So my mistake in my marriage, honestly speaking, was that I married a man knowing that I don't want to. That was my first mistake. I married to the hope that he will change, and he didn't change. My problem is I wanted to be the fixer, and I couldn't fix him. Only God can fix him. And I think that if I were to take any blame for anything, would be that I wanted to be a fixer, and I married a man that I knew very well I did not want to do forever with, because forever is a very long time. Yeah.
So then, my understanding, right, in your story, okay, I first want to say I sympathize with you for what you went through, and as you telling your story as well, growing up from such a family where you also have that experience. I also have similar history as well, but I want to now understand that now you knew that this man was an abuser, right? And you went on and you got married, to him. How long did you know this man for before you started maybe thinking, there would be a future with him? Were you trying to, fix your life, or was he a rebound?
He was a rebound. We were together for 3 months before I fell pregnant. How long have I known him? I've known him as just an acquaintance from work. He worked in the same production house I was working in. So I've just known him as an individual who always hints that, when are you going to be my wife? When are you going to be? Since I've known him, he used to throw in that hint. But to be honest, I was never in love with him. I never fell in love with him. Like I said, he was a rebound. And I thought I would learn how to love him. And I just needed validation, because somebody had left me. Somebody that I truly loved. He left me, he shattered me, humiliated me once again, the same way that he always humiliates me. So literally at this time, I was too ashamed to go tell people what he did. In my book I write about him as Mr. X. I couldn't tell people what Mr. X did, because they'll be like, again, Nolo Nawe, why did you go back? But I loved him. As a matter of fact, I think that's the only man I've ever confessed that I loved in my whole entire existence.
The one that you married? Or
the one that hurt me, the one that broke me. And
so basically, you can still say it is possible for a woman to be with a man or to marry a man that
They don't love.
doesn't love. Yeah.
Oh, yes.
A lot of people get married just to settle or just
Yes.
to create family, but
Yes.
out of love.
Yes, if somebody asked me that, no, okay, we hear you, you said you got married to a man you knew you didn't want to get married. Then why did you get married? Did you love him? No, I didn't. I got married because I was pregnant. And I got married because this would be the second child out of wedlock. And that's not what I wanted in my life. You understand? And I got married hoping that, okay, I see the red flags. Kiamona, is an addict. Kiamona, he is abusive. Kiamona, he still has those insecurities that I probably still love that man that I was with for 4 years. So I see these hints, but he's never really laid a hand on me until Ansama Lobola. And that's when I started like realizing that this is only going to get worse over time. Because I guess maybe he gained some sort of entitlement to me. He owns me now, you know, Baba Sekaya Manj. And hence why I say my mistake was I knew very well we did not build anything together. Our relationship was very young. We were moving very fast. And I thought that was the best solution at the time. I might as well get married. The man I wasted 4 years on left me. Here's a man who wants to marry me in the blink of an eye. You know, I just took whatever came my way. And yes, I never really consulted with God in those decision makings. Never, not even once.
You know what, I'm laughing. I'm laughing because sometimes it's like, you know, the guests that come into my show, it's like we share the same similar experiences. Because I'm not laughing because I'm thinking, how did you do it?
Yeah.
I'm laughing because I also once dated and stayed with a man that I wasn't in love with. You know, it's like, hey, maybe this is just security. Oh, okay, he's a lawyer. I'm like, but I wasn't in love with this man. But I think sometimes the truth is, sometimes as women, we come to a point where we just want to settle and we want, you know, to be stable and we want a family. You know what I mean? But not that, you know, you cannot respect that man. But I know it is possible, sis.
Yeah.
So I know exactly what you're talking about.
So I wanted to make it clear. I always say I want to emphasize my part that I played in the marriage. And maybe that's why it fell apart, because from the start, Linda, I was very, like, I was stepping very carefully. Mara, forever is a very long time, Lord. I don't think I'll make it with this man forever, you know.
And the worst, this one was abusive.
Yeah, and I think the biggest reason was I'm destroying my daughter. I'm continuing this vicious cycle. Generation after generation, we're going to stay with abusive men and see it as a norm. You know, my mom still thinks it's a norm. You know, to her, she's like, he's your husband, stay with him. What are you going to do? Leave him to go to another man that's going to cheat on you and beat you? At least stay with one that is just beating you. You understand? Because to her, it's a norm. It's a norm. She does not think otherwise. She does not even see the possibility of ever truly being happy in a marriage. And in all honesty, that's kind of my belief as well right now. So much so that I always remember the words of Paul in the Bible when he says, some of us are not meant to be married. I think I belong in that category. Maybe I'm not meant to be, and I'm not better about it. I'm okay. I'm actually okay. I've been single for 3 years, and it works just fine for me and my kids.
The problem with our elders, you know, they have this thing of, you know, begezela. A woman must hold on, you know, you must stay, even if it's tough or anything like that. And this begezela thing has put a lot of women, you know, 6 feet down.
Yes.
A lot of women are in graves because of begezela. A lot of women are in mental institutions because of begezela. A lot of women are like, they are suffering. They have lost weight. It's like, you know, when you're like, my goodness, it's sad, you know, all because of this thing of I want to be a missus.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of, you know, somebody once said on Instagram, when I know who, you know, married women are not the happiest, but married men are the happiest.
Yeah.
So a lot of women are sitting, a lot of people are sitting in their marriages and they are not happy and they are suffering, you know, and it is sad, you know. But then how did you come out now of this situation, and especially now ending up finding yourself to where you were, where we started now seeing on YouTube, when you started posting to say, this is my life? What happened for you to end up getting out first out of that situation? What was happening?
So like I mentioned, the day he punched a hole through the door with his bare hands, I managed to record that. Other incidences I could not record. All I could do was just my word against his or his word against mine. So sometimes really it would be hard to believe, because this man is so gentle, soft-spoken. How Ndlovukazi, kunjani mama sekhaya. He's so gentle, you know what I mein? So humble. Makhuluma nawe, you think, what a gentleman. Everybody who worked with him will say we would have never thought he was that kind of a man. As a matter of fact, they thought I was the problem, because I'm here, you know, I'm very vocal. So they used to think, Gwen, what did you do, you know? So that's why I say that video was my saving grace, because then people believed, Mangiti, this man abuses me. This is what's happening right in front of the children. Do you understand? So luckily, that day when police came, there was a lady within the police unit that says, what would you like us to do? I'm like, well, first get him out of the house. And secondly, I want a protection order so he mustn't come back. And can you believe it? That was the last time I saw him. Gone. To this day, I don't know where he is.
But he's still working in the industry, right? He's behind the scenes or in front of the scenes?
He's behind the scenes. Yeah, he was a director.
So this is a small industry. So
very small.
He cannot even contact you, find out how's the baby, how are the kids?
No, he didn't even do that. The last words he says to me is that you will raise my child with the money of malobola, because I paid malobola and 9 months later this is how you're going to treat me. You know, we were living in my place at the time, because he used to live in Pinville, Soweto, and I couldn't now relocate the child from the school she was in, my oldest one. So I said, let's live here, we'll buy our own home over time. So it was easy for me to tell the police I want him out and I want a protection order. And he was so livid that he ended up saying, and I've been raising the child to this day. You know, so the last I heard is that he went back to KZN. So he's working for a particular production there in KZN. And then recently I just heard through the grapevine, because it's a small industry, that he's no longer working there. So that's why I think the reason I'm mentioning that is because people will say, well, why is someone trying for maintenance? These courts, the maintenance, but worst off, they're going to expect you to chip out more for the child's maintenance than him, because he's not working, he's living off of what people can offer him.
So now this whole thing, you know, when you guys were still fighting and everything, obviously the neighbors would know, the police would know. This is a time where you are still like a celebrity. You were on TV. How did it make you feel now at that time, where now this, you know, celebrity, this woman who's on TV every day on our screens, is now in and out of police stations, and you know the police are coming?
I asked them to keep it hush. Confidentiality, that's what I asked for. I said, can you guys just keep this hush hush? But it's the hush hush that ends up killing women. We don't talk again. We sit on our challenges and our troubles. You cover up that blue eye with makeup. Kanti, ekaya, you are dying. I asked them, can you guys just keep things hush hush for his sake, his reputation's sake? Because also I just didn't want him to undergo cancelling culture, you know, where he doesn't get a job anymore, you know? So for me, I tried to cover it up quite a lot. I was always covering it up, so much so that, you know, you would go on social media and post a fake video of you saying, oh, my husband is handsome, just to, you know, fool people that you're happily married. That's not even, you know what I mean? That's why today I'm very, very serious about being authentic, because posting lies will catch up with you, eh? Posting lies will catch up with you, because they'll be like, how just yesterday you guys looked lovey-dovey and you were saying the man, that's my pillar. Now we are hearing a different story, you know? So yeah, I that's how I was dealing with it in terms of the media space. Yeah.
And a lot of times also is that, you know, when you get married and, you know, the elders, they talk to you as a woman. Usually they don't even talk to men. They speak to you as Musadi, and they teach you, they say, Bari Musadi, udidula, you know, yeah. So basically they are saying, we, as a woman, you don't take out your problems, you don't talk about it, and you hide it. And hence now you're talking about the social media, or on social media you see us posting a happy life, happily married, and in the holidays, but then you are going,
we are goisha. Yeah, but I agree, as a woman you have to just put up a front, but while you're putting up that front, at whose expense? At your emotions expense? At your psyche's expense? Are you okay mentally, emotionally, while you're putting up this front? You know, it's very important, because at the end of the day, the kids are the ones being affected. The kids can see. The kids can see, something is wrong here, something is off. Even if they don't see and you guys fight behind closed doors, there's that aura that you can sense, you know. And then now my biggest thing is children. That's my biggest thing. Like, can we please save the children? The reason we have such a huge high cases of GBV, a huge problem in our country at the moment, is because those men come from broken homes. So if we raise children in broken homes, they're going to be broken adults. So can we start from grassroots level? Can we actually cultivate these young ones' minds from grassroots level? You know, I talk to my child as openly as I can talk to her. Yes, I know the living conditions you're living in are not ideal. Any child would love to live in a household with both their mom and their dad. But I want you to know that if that's what you want for yourself, you can have it. It's just unfortunate that this is where you are, but it doesn't make you less of an individual. You are still loved, you're still talented, you're still smart, you can still be whatever you want to be despite how you grew up. So those words of affirmation is healing that little part of her that feels like she's inadequate, because she's living in an environment that is not ideal for a child, you know. So I'm just encouraging her, if uzo begezela for that marriage, just remember at whose expense. What kind of an adult are you building there in that child of yours who's watching all of this, who's sensing all of this daily? Yeah.
So besides your parent, are there no family members or friends that you could maybe speak to say, hey, this is what's happening? Or maybe you're still on that stage of hiding, you know, and trying to protect your marriage?
That one, honestly speaking, I never really know how to answer it without offending anyone. Because truth of the matter is, I never really have anybody to talk to. And it's weird because I have people in my corner. I have people I listen to, and then when they need to vent or when they need me to pray with them because they're too weak to pray. Mara na salido tola ko malo papa akina a person to run to. And I don't know if that's the position you're given as a prayer warrior or an intercessor or a firstborn. I don't even know, but in most cases in my life, when I go through the roughest patches, I never have people to talk to. Yes, family is there. But you know, when you already know what somebody's going to say, you don't even bother going. I already know what a certain family member would say if I contacted them, you know. I already know what my mom is going to say. I already know her standpoint in this, regarding this. So I don't even talk to anybody. I don't. That's why I ended up deciding to say, you know what, Nolo, I know you're a psychology student, and yes, but it's time you seek out help now, because you can't carry everything on your own. You're busy having meltdowns. So I guess if I really needed to talk, I run to God, or I run to a therapist. Yeah, I never really have somebody to confide in.
So now let's talk about, you know, acting, Skeem Saam.
Yes.
How did it come about that now you ended up on TV, the most watched, biggest soapy in South Africa, Skeem Saam? How did you audition? Like, what happened?
I didn't expect to be on TV. It was never my aspiration to be on TV. Again, remember I said I'm a psychology student. So I didn't leave high school saying one day I want to be on TV. I didn't even leave high school thinking one day I want to be on radio, you know. But I
Didn't
found,
even think you're gonna be a celebrity.
I mean, celebrities. I don't know. I always prefer people to say I'm a public figure, not a celebrity, you know.
know.
Because then, a celebrity, and then you see me in an Uber, and you're gonna say, how?
Celebrity. Oh, but you know, like, oh.
Yes, what's up, I got Uber. So, but then, how I got into Skeem Saam is that, I was such a fan of Skeem Saam. I used to watch it so much. Then all of a sudden I hear about open auditions, and I'm like, cuz, let's go. This cousin of mine used to be work in different productions at a time, So her career in the performing arts industry had just started. So it's like, cuz, go audition, umupedi, and I just want to get there and take pictures with the characters, Skeem Saam, because you have that pride, they're from my hometown. I got there, we're standing in a queue together, moral support. And then one of the people says, aren't you auditioning? I'm like, no. He's like, well, come in. So they called us in fives. They come in and they say, aren't you auditioning? It's, no, I'm just here for pictures. But no, audition. I don't even know what to do. But no, put together a monologue. I don't know what a monologue is. So I grabbed my phone, I quickly Googled monologue. I'm like, oh, okay. Then I wrote it in English. Then I translated it into Sepedi. And then I went there and I did my thing. As a matter of fact, I just remember them laughing because whatever I was doing was funny. And then 2 weeks later, I get a call. And they said that we know that people came to audition for the new setup in the SOPI. The boys are going to university, so they need lecturers. They're going to need other students from various parts of South Africa within that new setup. But then they said, we have a role that we have been working on for some time, and we feel like you can play it because you're already working on radio. Ngithi, how? What? Wow. Okay, what is it? But no, we want you to play the role of Mokgadi. Mokgadi is a journalist, and you're already working on radio. You're going to interview Leeto and then expose him for his past, that he used to be involved in shady deals. It was meant to be a 3-part cameo role, right? And then that was in 2015. 2016, early that year, they called me and said, we actually decided to expand the role of Mokgadi. SABC loved Mokgadi. So we're expanding the role. You're going to fall in love with Leeto, da-da-da-da-da-da. Would you like to take on the role? I'm like, I know nothing about acting. And then they said, well, we'll get acting coaches for you, acting lessons, get you up to date with what you need to be aware of and how to embrace the role, And because I didn't want to underestimate the craft, as Palisa, people went to school for this. I didn't want to underestimate the craft. I did ask and search for acting coaches. I did take those lessons that were necessary. And believe it or not, and this is what I always tell people, I don't tell it to brag, but I tell it to just let you know, when something is meant for you, it won't pass you by. I started in the entertainment industry with the lead role from the onset. You understand? I didn't start with being an extra, then I became a call-time actor, then I went straight to being a lead. And I didn't even know how the industry works at the time. Okay, what's the big deal about being a lead? But no, you're going to be in the title sequence. When it plays, when it starts, your face is going to be there. I'm like, oh, okay. But then I wanted to secure this craft and cement my name, because I never want to do something and be a one-hit wonder. If I'm going to do this, they better remember me. They better remember. So I put in the effort. I remember at one point I became vegetarian just so I can fit in Mokgadi's wedding dress. Because I took it that seriously. I took it that seriously. And that's how I got into the entertainment industry. And over time I had to develop a thick skin, because when you're in the public eye, you're also subjected to public scrutiny. And I just every day woke up to put my best foot forward. And playing the role of Mokgadi was quite interesting. She didn't have a character bible, everything just unfolded in front of me.
So how was it like now when you started meeting all these celebrities on set? How did they receive you, and what was the relationship like between you?
I was so starstruck when I met Africa Tswai and Harriet Manamela. I am like, what? Really? So I was just quiet. I was just quiet and just, observing the situation. You don't want to overstep. This is work. Professionalism needs to be maintained. But I would love to give credit to my co-star, my on-screen husband, Eric Macheru, who played Leto. What people don't know is that him and I went to the same primary school.
Okay.
So I've known him from a young age. As a matter of fact, his late father and my dad used to work together at some point. So I know him personally. So he helped my time there to be a little bit more comfortable because I know him from home. And he would hint at things like, no, you do it like this. No, you don't have to perform. Your face tells the story. So I learned quite a lot from him. And I was lucky enough to be taken under Harriet Manamela's wing, and she taught me a lot of things as well. So I was well embraced there, and I appreciate it. And Tate Africa Tswayena is all about lifelong advices. Like he said, from the first advice he ever gave me was, if you're gonna be an actress, you're gonna be in this industry, make sure you have savings that are like your 3 months salary. Take your 3 months salary and make sure your savings are that much, because when they say there's no job, you are going to need those savings to survive until there's another job. So he would always give us those kind of advices. Don't buy a car brand new. When the job is done, it will be repossessed. Buy a used car, rather buy it cash. Things like that. So he would give me that kind of advice. When you work in this industry, don't fall into the trap of taking anything on credit. When the job is done, it's done.
So how long were you at Skeem Saam for?
7 years.
Wow, that's long.
7 years, yes, a full 7 years.
Wow, that's long. So then after 7 years, what happened, with your character? How did they let go of you, or how did the contract end? That now you ended up finding yourself where you are at the moment. I mean, I can attest to that. When I was in Generations, I was still, comfortable or anything, because, every year they would renew.
Yeah.
And you are so comfortable.
You are comfortable.
And then out of the boom, bam, the writers had decided, actually, we are writing new characters, and we are writing Palisa, the character Palisa out. And I'm like, but why?
Why?
When I was at Gospel Gold, I think I was presenting a gospel show.
Yes.
One of the most watched
gospel
show ever.
Yeah.
I mean, just my face there, me being a gospel presenter, I drew about 4 million viewership.
Wow.
And even after a year, being comfortable, being settled, I'm a gospel presenter, and then all of a sudden I'm told that they're getting a new presenter for Gospel Gold. I'm like, how do you let go of somebody who's drawing 4 million viewership? Not unless if it's personal vendettas, inside. But hey, it's your story now to tell.
I'm always careful about that story, because you know how the industry is like. You don't want to be blacklisted, but I think you're not the only person
that was blacklisted.
And you're not the only person who's curious. 3 years later, people are still saying, Mukhadi, when are you coming back? And I always say, soon, But I never saw it coming. Like you said, you're comfortable. Every year, they're going to renew the contract, because you already have the storyline for the season. So you're there for the season. You understand? So, but things changed when I notified them of my pregnancy, because when you're a lead role, you need to let them know as early as possible that you're pregnant. I literally told them 6 weeks in. The day I found out that I was pregnant was the day I went and told them I'm pregnant, so they can figure out how to work around the story. Yes, I went to give birth, and I came back, and I went to shoot, but I wasn't aware that I'm shooting the end of the storyline. Right? I wasn't aware that we were shooting.
So you were not prepared?
No. I picked it up every day as we went, as I'm reading the scripts. I'm like, Musumo, we are all ending up in jail. And then what? And then that's it. But then after birth, when I came back, I was told, Hore, you're moving from being a lead role to a call actor, because your storyline is not that big anymore. It's not like one of the big storylines. You know how there's storyline A, B, and C? You're not in those storylines, so you're moving from lead actor to call actor. And then...
That's basically downgrading you.
Yes, and then after that, I've just never heard from them again.
Because being downgraded from being, you know, a lead role to a call actor, that means even your money. Now they're gonna give you money per call. So would you probably say, maybe even if you're saying you don't want to blame anybody, but the way I look at it with my experience in the industry, I would blame the writers. So because like the writers are the ones that are supposed to know what to do with a character. Would you say maybe the writers have something to do with it, or maybe could you perhaps maybe, or what?
I don't think the writers have something to do with it, because as a matter of fact, I had friends in the writing team, you know, who would also give me heads up about anything I should be alert of. Not that they are, you know, telling me confidential things that I shouldn't know, but you know, when you're with somebody like, hey, can't they, and then you must let me know if Makhadi is going to fall pregnant to Pela, so that I can do it in real life. You know how you would joke like that? Or so I wouldn't blame the writers, but if I were to blame anybody else, I'll blame myself.
For falling pregnant?
Yes. Because I don't see any other reason for me to be written out. What other reason is there?
You are blaming yourself for falling pregnant, which is a natural thing as a woman. So you are saying if you hadn't fallen pregnant, then maybe the production would have kept your storyline. So are you basically saying that women are not supposed to naturally fall pregnant? You're a young woman, you just got married.
I don't know which other way to think about it, honestly. And truth of the matter is, Palisa, there's so much more politics within it. And what took place, must remember, my ex-husband and the father to my last child, we both worked in the same production. Do you understand? We both worked in the same production, and all of a sudden I have a protection order against him.
So
how is that going to work?
Your personal issues,
yes,
in your family,
got
into the workspace.
Yes, I think that's the best way to phrase it. That's why I'm saying I blame me, because I feel like my personal issues caused a tension in the workspace, and maybe it was easier for them to let me go than to deal with the tension. If I'm to ever really, and this is the first time I'm ever really answering it correctly, because I've been ducking and diving this question for so long. But if you can look back on the timeline, when did you stop seeing Makhadi on screen? When she gave birth. In real life, when Nolo went to give birth, we stopped seeing Makhadi.
Nolo, in production, the directors have the power because they're more closer to the producers, the executive producers, and you are just merely, I can say, not that, you know, I'm talking low, but then you are just merely an actress. So obviously when they would have to choose, would you rather say that, or maybe could you perhaps say they decided to rather keep or take the side of the director who's got more power in production than a character who is Makhadi?
Oh, I'm not the only one who was let go. He also was let go. Yeah, when I stopped going as a co-actor, he also stopped his directing duties.
He was let go, or he resigned?
I'm not sure what happened there, but I found out literally a few weeks later that he's moved back to KZN and he's working on that particular production.
So with the advice that you got from Patrick Tswai to say you need to save at that save, did you find yourself, did you not find yourself maybe time to say, okay, or maybe time to have saved enough, or maybe it was just a shock or surprise or like a bomb at the time when you just realized that your story has been written off?
You see, now that's where God came in, right? So the year before I was let go, before I could even fall pregnant, I had gotten my first ever royalties from Skeem Saam. I mean, from SABC. You know how every artist has an artist number, and I was just informed that there are royalties waiting for me, and I got those royalties, and I never said a word. I kept quiet.
Royalties? It's the first time I hear of artists getting royalties as an actor. Are you talking royalties, or maybe are you talking SARS money?
It's not SARS money. It's not SARS money.
Wow.
I think we call it royalties. So how it worked for me, how I was notified, and maybe somebody in the comments can let us know what they're called. But you get an artist number when you work for SABC. I still use the same artist number as a radio presenter on the show that I do, because it's an SABC radio station. So after a certain number of seasons, you get royalties.
Okay.
You know, so I was notified by the veterans. I'm not going to say who, but the veterans in the industry. When have you ever went and checked your royalties? Pella, I've been here for these many seasons. Have you gone to check your royalties? I'm like, I don't even know what that is. I went and spoke to some people about payroll. And I found out that I had some money settling there somewhere for me to just come and collect.
Oh, people need
You never know. Maybe you've got millions. Go check.
I better go and
Go check. Lynn, I didn't know.
The only money that I claimed for was repeats for a certain show that I did for SABC. I think back then, 1998 to 2000, yeah, it shows you how long I've been in the industry. That's when I decided, I think about 2-3 years ago, to go and claim at SABC for the repeats.
So that's what I was getting.
Paid for the repeats.
Maybe it's a repeat.
Yeah, but then even in those repeats, they didn't even give me all the money. They gave me like half of the money.
Yes, Lerna, they gave us half of the money.
Oh yeah, maybe it's the repeats. I don't know.
I think maybe it's the repeats. I just looked at them as royalties. So that's what I got. And as soon as I got it, I literally just shut up. I didn't tell anybody about it. I put it away. And moreover, I had that 3 months savings that Africa Joy taught me about. Okay. That is why it was so easy for me. And I know it's not easy for most women to leave abusive partners because they're thinking, but for me, it was like, I'll survive. Before you know it, I'll bounce back. Before you know it, I'll be back on Skim Sam. Before you know it, my life will be back on track again. I've done single parenting before. I can do it again. You know what I mean? I had that little bit of, I wouldn't call it arrogance, I'd call it confidence. I don't need to be with this person. I've got money saved, you know? So although it went quiet for the whole of 2021, I still had something to hold me down. You know, I was still able to pay my rent. I was still able to feed my kids. I was able to get a nanny. I could afford a nanny, do anything, things like that. Hey, but 2022 came along. My savings are pelile manje. I don't have a job. I haven't had a job for a while.
But then in that 7 years, Nolo, if maybe I can ask, in that 7 years when you were working and you were lead and you were getting paid well, if I could say that, why did you not buy a house? Why did you opt for renting instead of even buying your house, yourself a small house?
So when I entered into Skim Sam, I was already in debt, right? I had quite a lot of debt that I had accumulated from the few businesses I tried to start on my own. And obviously, you know, when you're trying out with business, which is why I'm afraid to do business now, but I'm treading carefully, then I ended up in a lot of debt. So first of all, I definitely did not qualify to get a bond. But as soon as I got into Skim Sam, my first mission was clear your debts, start building your credit record, and then buy a house. So really, that was my goal. That was my goal from the onset. But also you must remember, I'm the firstborn amongst 2 boys at home. My mother, as much as she has a husband, she raised us like a single parent. So I always had to contribute. Black tax is black tax, and no black child can run away from it. You understand? So this is how I was handling my finances at the time. And thank you for asking me this, because people were like, but you celebrities, you don't know how to use your money. Why didn't you go build at home? You know what I mean? So, oh, you've gotten that. Hey. I'm like, y'all don't understand. So my mission was, okay, Nolo, you're gonna fix your credit record. At that time, it's 1 child. You know, I had accepted, or I'm gonna be a single woman. I'm gonna be with 1 child. And then when my credit record was all good, and now I'm ready to go start, you know, buying a home. I've already accumulated some savings, and my mother is also sorted out. You know, I don't always have to take out a huge chunk from my salary. Oh. Musebetsi wa fela a uspeleza. Musebetsi wa fela ne mola musebetsi u fedile. And I also blame the fact that we do get comfortable, Pella. That's the salary is comforting. You know, you get all you want, and you still even have a little bit more to enjoy your holidays away and stuff. So when it ended, my mission was no longer get a home. My mission was survival. Use the savings you've got to survive. Because now you're alone with 2 kids, you know. So you're alone with 2 kids, survive. And I tried to survive on my own for a good year. My youngest child was born in April. Actually, it was her birthday this past Saturday. Yeah, thank you. So April, May, June until December, I survived. We were doing okay. Okay, until 2022 came along. And my poor mother had to go sell her car to maintain rent for us for another 3 months. So I'd always pay in advance, you know. So for her to help us maintain, she sold her car, shame. And those are the kind of sacrifices she has done for me. That's why to this day I feel like, shame, I've drained her. Let me give her a break. Let me do this life on my own. Yeah.
So now and then, how did you end up being in a home? Because you made a YouTube video where you're telling everyone that, you know, this is a situation. I'm in a home or in a safe place with 2 children.
How I ended up in a home is because all my resources were done. So we've been living, renting this whole time. But, you know, the landlord was always on our case, like, okay, but you still cannot cover up what you owe. So every month when I'm supposed to pay rent, I would pay rent, but the other month, you know. So he was seeing a trend that is picking up. Are you ever going to cover up? You know, I'm running a business here. I understand, Nolo, you are a single parent, and I understand how you ended up here. But are you ever going to cover it up? Because it seems to be a growing trend. And I remember when I wanted to print my books, I took a risk, an uncalculated risk, and I took some finances from my rent to print the first batch of books. Because in my mind I thought, hey, they're going to sell like hotcakes. And as soon as that money comes in, I pay the landlord, we're good. I secure a home for my kids. But that was not the case. And people did not buy books as quick as I thought, because we're moving into December. And South Africa is very serious about December, and nobody's going to buy a book in December. People actually finished this first batch of books in January of this year. So the landlord ended up saying, you have to be evicted. I thought it was a joke. I don't know, I'm going to give you guys until the 27th. Enjoy your Christmas. 25, enjoy with the kids. 27, you must be out. And I was like, but how? And I remember I started looking for places that are much cheaper. Obviously, it was time for me to downgrade. I could no longer live in a 2-bedroom. Go live in a bachelor if you have to. You know, downgrade so that the little money you make from that radio gig that you have can maintain a home for your kids. How you guys eat, you will find a way. You know, these small gigs that we get outside. Hey, did I not come back from work one Saturday and found my furniture out of the unit that we were living in? Yes, landlord just came and locked, said, I told you to get out by the 27th. I'm like, but I sent you an email that the places will only be available by the 2 Jan. All the places I went to check, they said they'll be available by the 2nd of Jan. So, like, I sent you an email. No, I didn't even read your emails. I was also blocked on WhatsApp, so there was no easy communication. The best way for me was an email. I didn't read your emails. And I found my things outside.
So basically, like,
He
how
kicked
much
me
time
out.
did she give you? Because I think the way she did it, it must have been illegal.
It is illegal. We are undergoing court cases now, even though I feel like I should drop it because she's a single mother herself and the unit is her only source of income. And I'm the one who was in the wrong. I'm the one who took money from the rent. So I remember I told the lawyer who's assisting me, but you know what, if she says she doesn't have money, can we let it go? Because you'd find that she doesn't have money to compensate me. And I'm the one who was in the wrong. And she's a single mother as well, you know. So, but it was illegal for her to kick me out like that. I remember it was Saturday afternoon. Storages are closed. Where am I going to find a truck to move everything? So I would stay with friends and switch them up while I was trying to devise a plan for when the kids come back from school holidays. What am I going to do? I didn't tell my mom the situation I was in. I didn't tell her because shame. I just felt like I'm overwhelming this lady, you know. When they came back, I thought, okay, since I've got this amount of money that I know I'm supposed to pay for rent every month, how about we book a B&B for a while until I can get back on my feet? So the amount of B&B a month, to stay there for a month, was slightly lower than what I'd pay for rent. I stayed at the B&B. We were okay for some time. But then I needed to assist at home financially I remember how I took my fridge, my TV, my washing machine to be pawned at cash converters so I can assist my mom financially, hoping that by the end of the month she will be able to assist me. But that was not the case. And when I realized that's not the case, of course I lost my things that I went to pawn. If you don't come and take them out, they sell them. And I realized, actually, Nolo, you're on your own now. You're on your own, my sister. Your mother is also struggling to help you. She's been helping you for a while. She has to now focus on her other children. You can't always be the one that needs help. And so I remember one night I was praying and crying and saying, Lord, but what did I do wrong? Where did I step at a wrong place for my kids to not even have a home? All I'm asking is a home for my kids. You know, whatever I did wrong, I'm willing to learn and be corrected by you. But you know, Lord, that I cannot go live with a man. Don't get me wrong, there were offers. Hey, I had offers. A man would say, oh, come live with me and your children. But I can't take my oldest daughter through something like that again. I had promised her no man will ever come in our home ever again, ever since her ex-stepfather, if I may put it that way. So I had to turn down all the offers. But I used to say, Lord, if I'm turning down all these offers, what am I going to do? Because home is not an option. Going back home is not an option for me. It's not an option for so many reasons, but going back home, it's not an option. I ran away from home in 2013. I'm not going back. Do you understand? So I got an idea. I guess it was the Holy Spirit. Check for women and children safety homes. It was late at night. I checked. Picked one around the area that's closest to my children's school, my oldest child's school. And I contacted them and they said, come through for screening because they can't just take anybody. You know, they need to check, are you in the situation like this because you are maybe a gambler or you're an addict? Things like that. They need to understand your situation because they can't just let anybody in. And coincidentally, the lady managing the home I'm in is one of the ladies who used to come every weekend to my house when we were being abused by my ex. She's the one who helped me open a protection order. So although that was 3 years ago, she's like, I know this lady. I've seen what she's been through. And although they're not running away from their abuser like most cases at the home, I know what she's been through. I can let her in. And I got in. And my kids and I are in a safe space. It is not crowded. It's quite comfortable. And most importantly, my youngest daughter is finally in school. That gives me time to now start working on myself and focusing on Nolo. Nolo, what do you have on your hands? What can you do about the situation you're in? Okay, you've got a book, but what other talent do you have? You can talk. You're good at marketing. Try these kind of opportunities. You know, I'm literally in a space right now where I'm willing to work. I've got the time to work. Both my kids are at school. Now I'm working on how to get ourselves out of the situation and build a sustainable solution so we don't find ourselves back here again. So me telling people about my homeless situation was to cut away the shame, because eventually they were gonna know. People talk. People take pictures. As much as we sign an NDA when we walk into that shelter, eventually people are gonna know. So I wanted to remove the shame. I wanted to be able to stand in front of people and say, yes, this is my situation, but I'm working on changing it. And I could appreciate your support, whether you want to support the business or you want to buy my book or you want to offer me a job according to the qualifications I have. Please, here I am, you know. And funny enough, as Palisa, I would like to state, a lot of people were like, don't come and talk about your problems on social media. Guys, it has helped me. It has helped me better than dying inside and sitting on my problems. Remember I said I never have anybody to talk to? I've just never been afforded a shoulder to cry on. When I do have a shoulder to cry on, it's literally a miracle in my life. God literally sent that person, because I guess everybody portrays me to be strong and able to solve her situations. You know what I mean? So speaking out has helped me. Today, I not only have endorsement deals, sponsorship deals, collaboration deals. My kids are getting collaboration deals. You know, they get to have things done medically that I could not even afford myself. My youngest kid is in school, something I could not even afford 3 years ago. She's finally in school. You know what I mean? For me, speaking out has helped me. Marana was just removing the shame and the stigma, and also just trying to highlight to people, or stop assuming that celebrities and public figures are wealthy. We don't have benefits like you guys. We don't have subsidies like you guys. Everything we do from the amount you get. After 25% is taken, it's up to you to figure out how you're going to fund your life cover, your funeral covers, your medical aid, your pension funds, your education plan, car insurance and car installment. It's up to you. We don't have that luxury. We're not civil servants, although we should be considered as civil servants, but we're not. So I was also just shining a light because a few weeks earlier, Brendan Ngoli had come out with this situation as well. So I'm like, Akir Labon, stop assuming that there is money. We are all working just as hard as everybody else to make money. I mean, I've got other ways to make money. I just don't want to use that tool to make money. You know what I mean? Yeah.
One of the comments, or one of the few comments, was like, in this situation, why don't you call your baby daddies? Where are they?
So
you saw those comments?
I did. I don't know why I did. I just never respond to comments. I see them, I'm like, oh, okay, that's what you think. You know, I've developed a thick skin, so people's comments don't bother me. But I remember seeing that one. My oldest daughter's dad is very present. He's very present to the point where he said, let me come and take her. Let her continue with the rest of her schooling in Limpopo, you know, because obviously you're struggling. He knew that we were living in a lodge, a B&B for some time. So he's like, okay, let me come and take her. But she didn't want to go. It's her last year of primary school. It's going to be destabilizing for her. I mean, I remember telling her, don't feel like you need to be mommy's hero. Mommy will still be fine. You need to figure out what works best for you. Your dad is okay financially. You know you always get anything you want from your father. But I'm not your father's responsibility. You are your father's responsibility. So you can go live with him. And she said, no, I'm not going. And I know why she's saying that is because she almost lost us once upon a time. And she just feels like she always got this anxiety that she might lose us again, you know, ever since that time where her little sister and I almost died. And so she's I guess she still has that hold, which over time with therapy she will find a way to deal with it, but she didn't want to go. But the youngest one's dead. Like I said, I don't know where he is. I don't know where he is.
And the other comment was also like, why don't you go back home? You know, what is it that, you know, we cannot stand, you know, going home? As you said earlier on, no option. But then what would be the reason for you not to go back home if you can just declare it?
I can't. I cannot go back home. And honestly speaking, if I were to speak, I would be damaging certain people's names and painting them with a red brush. So I guess for the sake of family, I won't mention why I won't go home, but I can't. I just cannot go home. I mean, a lot of people who know me from home, they're like, but your family is well off. You guys live in the suburbs. You live in a double story. Why don't you go home? I can't.
But what relationship do you have with your mom?
My mom and I are pretty close. And, you know, like I said, when she needs assistance, I assist financially. She's also gone above and beyond for me, where she sold a car. After 60 years of using her own car, she now uses public transportation because of me. So I would say we're pretty close, but that's the thing. I had to, from the scrutiny I've received from family members about how I am milking my mom dry, I had to take a decision and say, you're on your own now. You have to find a solution for you and your kids. You literally have to do it on your own now. You can no longer say Hanka Shota month and I'll call mom. I can't, because already of the scrutiny I've received from family members, extended and close. So that's why I'm saying I cannot go back home, because going back home is also just going back under my mother's care. And honestly, I cannot afford that kind of scrutiny from people who forgot that I used to help them financially when I was working a job that pays well. Now that I don't have a job that pays well, I'm a burden. My kids and I are a burden, so I'd rather not. So maybe King Adile, if you want to call it that. Maybe King Adile, but let me do it on my own with my kids then.
Do you feel betrayed by the film industry?
Very much. Very, very much. So much so that somebody was asking me, so do you have an agent? Why don't you go find other roles? I just feel like, you know what, if I'm meant to go back on TV, I will go back. I'm not going to make it my number one priority anymore. I want to focus on working in the line of what I studied and also just building on what I can build, you know, selling my books, doing talks, selling the new business that I've just ventured into. But I'm not making it my main goal. I'm sorry, Auspalisa, but I don't see myself standing in queues for auditions. I don't. Maybe I'm spoiled at the fact that how I got in was easy. How I got into the film industry was easy. Maybe I'm expecting it to happen the same way. But I'm not making it my number one priority. Because I do feel betrayed by it. When you offer 7 years of your life dedicated to something, to a craft like that, and then when it's time to go, you're just dropped like a hot potato, I do feel betrayed. I do.
And what is your take when you see also other artists crying out about the industry? Last time I made an interview with Glenn Gabela to say we are famous and poor. Mam Nandi also came out as well and said, you know, we don't have money. A lot of artists also came out, Bob Brenda Ngoli, you know, and those that are hiding. What would you like to say to those that are hiding, you know, about our industry and those that are still sitting in their corners?
I encourage coming out and speaking, because maybe, just maybe, us speaking out about our challenges and struggles, we may find a solution through the Department of Sports, Arts and Culture and the Labor Department. For me personally, I see that as the only way to change our situation, because how long do we have to stick around to see artists dying poor? I mean, Mam Nandi's situation also hurt me a lot. You've been in the industry for so long and you can't get proper medical care. It didn't make sense to me, you know. And I think I'm speaking like this because I'm speaking from a point of both my parents are teachers. And when you're a teacher, you're a civil servant, you get a house subsidy. So already when you buy a house on bond, you've got like some subsidies, you know, cutting certain costs. Medical aid, they've got medical aid on subsidy, you know. A lot of things are at their disposal. Unemployment funds, if you're unemployed you've got all those things. We don't. And I didn't know that when I entered into the industry either, right? So I always encourage, if we speak out more, maybe, just maybe, something revolutionary will come out of this. The only institution, I don't know if I can mention it, that's doing something that seems promising is the SA Guild of Actors. You know, that, I feel like that's something we can all rally behind. I see that as an institution that could probably bring a change in the industry.
So now let's talk about the book, A Decade in My Life. What's inside this book? I wish I could have just read it, you know.
You know,
what's inside this book?
So it's layers, right? Onion layers. The outside layer is, I speak about psychosocial events that took place in our lives that changed us, whether we are aware or not, right? For me personally, if I were to start with the recent one, it is the COVID season. And then if I were to start with the furthest one, it was 2010, and South Africa was hosting the FIFA World Cup, right? So in between that, a lot of events have happened that really can mark history and an era. And to think I lived in that era, right? So psychosocial events, how did they affect you? I do mention right in the first chapter the list of events that I remember that really marked a huge change in my life. You know, losing an icon I looked up to, Brenda Fassie, you know, my twin sister in terms of birthdays were born on the same day, you know. And then you've got events where, unfortunately, when Riva Steenkamp was killed by her partner at the time, and it was the day I realized that gender-based violence is not only in the black community. You also find it amongst other races, you know. So those are the psychosocial events that have taken place. And even though you're not aware, it has affected your psyche in one way or another. The incident when xenophobia was high in our country at some point, it has affected you. So I start by reminding you of that decade. Remember, a decade is 10 years. So I mentioned 2010 until now, what events have taken place that have shaped you. And then in the second layer, I then dive more into how I became the adult that I am today. So I would start my story from the young adult I was, living in a foreign country at the age of 19, away from parents, and I'm working as a nanny, I'm discovering myself. I'm moving from teens into a young adult, 19 into Boma 21, and I'm doing it all on my own without a mother or a sister or a cousin constantly teaching me the way. I had to teach myself the way. You know, the dating space, how did I get into it? How did I navigate it? You know, my walk with Christ, where did it start? I also start talking about my journey with mental health issues, because I have suffered mental health issues. And I speak about how I found my way out of challenging situations. And then the part in the book that I love the most is where I remind you to heal the inner child in you before you can raise the child that's standing in front of you.
Beautiful.
Yeah, it's important to do self-reflection. And so far, the people that have read my book would always come back with a similar line, not exactly the same, but they'd say, your book just reminded me to do some self-reflection. Hey, there's some things I haven't dealt with. And remember, if you don't deal with something, it has a way of creeping up in your adulthood. And you're like, I thought I was okay. I thought I healed from this. But you actually just shoved it in the bag in your past and you thought it will never creep up. It does. It does, you know. So I call it in a whole, this book is a story of redemption. I call myself the prodigal daughter. You know, I've lived in the world. I've been caught up in the worldly things. I've done it all. Okay. And I can come back and I can tell you about it. But when God saved me and brought me back to life after I died for 3 minutes, I knew very well that I had an assignment. He wouldn't bring me back to life for nothing. And for a while, I fasted, I prayed about it. And this book was the vision that God gave me. And trust me, there are things about in there that I didn't want to talk about as Palisa. There are things I didn't want to talk about. You know, like things like abortions. You know, you don't want to talk about that. But there's a serious spiritual implication about that. And if I don't talk about it, that young 21-year-old who has probably done 3 already picks up this book and doesn't read that, then she'll think it's okay because everybody's doing it. But no, it's not okay. It's not okay. And I speak about it in there. So there are things I wasn't comfortable to talk about, but God said you have to, because you need to liberate somebody else. There are things I also needed to heal from. Okay. I needed to heal from my addiction with alcohol. And I could not write about that unless I get healed, because God will not allow me to liberate somebody with something that I'm still held in bondage with. That bond needed to break. The chains needed to be cut off so that I can show somebody how to be liberated from it. So I couldn't be hypocritical. I couldn't badmouth anybody. Yeah, I wrote it 3 times. The first time I was angry and he's like, no, you gotta rewrite that. You're painting that person in a bad brush, you know. Because at the end of the day, we do not fight against flesh and blood, you know. We fight against principalities and powers influencing that person, you know. Hence why I didn't even speak badly about my ex-husband in there as well. Yeah.
Sure. I feel like now that you tell me, you know, talking to me about your book, this must be liberating, you know.
Sure.
Like you're saying, you really outpoured yourself. So I'm not going to ask Nola a whole lot more. If you want to know about her story that can liberate you outside there, you know, she spoke about the abortions, she spoke about, you know, dealing with alcohol. You can always find it here in a book. So how do we get hold of your book, and how much is a copy? The book is called A Decade in a Lifetime. How much is this copy, and where can, you know,
get the book?
Yeah, our our viewers get the book?
So the book, how to get the book is you send an email to adecadeinaLifetime@gmail.com. So it's the name of the book at gmail.com, adecadeinaLifetime@gmail.com. The book is $450 including shipping.
Oh, lovely. So, sure, yes, thank you so much for coming. But then still now, I also saw now your last post as well that you're a businesswoman now.
Yes.
Tell me about it.
You know what? Speaking helps. Speaking helps because I remember I specifically said, I am not looking for donations. Give me a job. And this other lady reached out to me on my social media spaces and they said, I want to introduce you to the business called Perfume Co., where you sell perfumes, but not only that, you sell a business opportunity where you become your own boss. And how that works is, I don't know if you know the Forever Living products and how they work. So it's something similar, a similar strategy. However, instead of opting for that, and I rather opted for this is because I'm obsessed with fragrance. As a matter of fact, when I smell good and you ask me what am I wearing, I'm going to say a lot of things because I mix them. I want to have my own unique smell, right? But also perfumes, they don't expire. Perfumes are very easy, are very affordable to obtain. The stock is very affordable to obtain. And not only that, as you make people join under you and coach them on how to do the business, you are also growing yourself. This is something that I intend to do for a lifetime and also make my children join under. And anybody can do it. You don't have to be a South African. You can be from anywhere in Africa as long as you have a bank account. Do you understand? And it's all just a matter of when you do sell a bottle, I come to you, I'm like, yo, actually, oh, let me smell, I like this fragrance. I'm like, yeah, but I also sell an opportunity. You can also sell these things yourself. You can also earn your own monthly income. Even when you're just sitting at home doing nothing. The fact that you've recruited people and trained them to be salespeople, then you can find yourself earning an extra amount that you were never expecting to earn. This is me trying to create multiple streams of income because I have since learned the hard way that one source of income is simply not enough. Yeah. So I speak about this a lot on my TikTok. So if people are really interested in finding out about the business.
Can I spray?
Yes. Yes, go ahead.
Beautiful. I love this one. It's got a floral scent.
Yeah.
Sweet. What's this one?
I think it's at the back.
Perfume Co.
Oh, this is Tommy Girl.
Tommy Girl.
Yes.
Yeah, where am I expecting?
So please note that the fragrance is the original. We just use a different packaging because the prices you pay in shops is the bottle. You're paying for the bottle. So the fragrance is definitely it. We always say don't underestimate it. It's actually quite good. I've seen that myself. But one thing I want to state is that this perfume business is very easy to start. You just need 1,000 rands, 99 rand to register. Get your own website, get your own link, buy your own stock. People join under you. And that's it. And buy your stock for like the cheapest amount of stock you can buy is 700. So what you do as the leader who made people join under you is that you get 20% of the stock they bought from Perfume Co. Not you. If you bought stock, you can sell your stock for whatever amount you want to sell it. So you can either choose to make 100% profit or 200% profit. It's entirely up to you. There's no fixed price. But then I get paid by Perfume Co. for the stock that you get. They give me 20%. And that, Ospalisa, is consecutive for months and months and months to come. So we talk about a lifetime salary. Who wouldn't want a lifetime salary? So depending how big you want to go, the sky is really the limit when it comes to this business. If you want to join in 100 people, go ahead. If you want to join in 1,000, go ahead. But you must just know every month there's going to be a certain amount of money in your account because of the people that you're coaching and teaching how to be independent business owners.
So if I want to buy as an individual and not join, how much is a bottle? So we've got 50 mils, we've got 30 mils. The 50 mil, we can sell it for 275. And then the 30 mil, we sell it for 150. Yeah. So how can people get hold of you if they want to order, some perfumes or join under you? Oh,
wow. Thank you so much. So they can catch me on my social media platforms. All of them, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook. It is Bebetsi Matlaila on Facebook and Instagram. On TikTok, it's Nolo Matlaila because there's a lot of Bebetsi Matlailas.
Yeah.
So they can kindly hit me up there and I'll make sure I get it to them. Or they can find out which area I'm in that week because I do go to the streets and I sell on the streets, you know. Just like DJ's Boo used to go sell more fire on the streets. Hey, I'm that girl. I'm here.
Selling
I'm here.
perfume. Yeah. So what last message do you want to give, to our viewers, sis?
The last message I'd like to give is accepting your circumstance and your situation is the first step to healing. Yeah. Psychology would say acknowledging the problem is the first step to healing. Once you can identify the problem, once you can expose the deception that the devil has placed in your life, once you can actually accept and say, yeah, now I've really fallen on rough times. That is the first step to healing. That is the first step to changing for the better. That is the first step to seeing and finding the problems and uprooting them from grassroots level. And when I say problems, I mean, you never know, maybe your problem is a generational curse that has stayed in your family for so long that nobody can identify it's a problem. I know that financial lack is a common thing in my family. Not poverty, but financial lack. You have the money today, tomorrow you don't have it. You have the money today. That's a cycle it needs to go. It's not my portion. It's not my portion. So I just want to advise you, the sooner you accept your challenge, the sooner you can start changing it.
Amen.
Yeah.
And any last scripture?
Oh yes, please do let me share the scripture. Romans 8:18 says, "For I concur that the suffering of the present times are nothing compared to the glory that God will bring upon you and through you." So whatever circumstance you face, no matter how embarrassing it is or how shameful it may seem, you never suffer in vain. Especially you never suffer in vain. It's an opportunity to grow. It's an opportunity to be strengthened as a soldier in the army, gain new tools so you can get out there and face the war more strengthened or with new tools. So I never look at my circumstances as the doom and gloom of my life. As a matter of fact, I get excited because I'm like, what is God gonna do this time? What is God gonna do this time? So but also when you are a firm believer and you loudly proclaim it to the world like you always do, best believe hell has a target on you. You're threatening the devil.
Mukhaisi, thank you so much. My sister, thank you so much. I'm really honored to have you.
Thank you.
And I must say you are a voice to the voiceless. As you have heard, from Nolo herself, please do follow her on TikTok, on social media, all the handles. If you want to buy a perfume, if you want to get a book, a decade in a lifetime, please do contact her on all her social media pages. But otherwise, I think I'm glad that you have heard from her. She is the voice, to the voiceless, and you've heard it from the voice, from the horse's mouth.
Hallelujah.
But otherwise, from myself, until next time, keep supporting, keep sharing, keep liking, and of course do follow. And for all those that subscribed, thank you, sis.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.